right? 3 today and 3 next week. Keep in mind, and it's okay. Given that we have 6 hours, we may be able to learn about what we need this month. Okay? Not much, but should be enough to get started. My knowledge, my experience in SAS, maybe this much, right? And everything about SAS programming is more than this page. So 6 hours cannot make you to be an expert. That's a fact. Don't rush, don't be angry, but should be okay. Take that fact in your mind. All right. Now, why we need to use SAS? SAS is just a tool. Again, keep this in mind. Don't need to write anything, just listen. Nothing about fact. If you want to build a house, I don't care if you use your hand, you use any kind of tool, you use the tractor, right? You use the whatever, right? It's just a tool to build a house. SAS is just a tool. Okay, so no need to ask me, do I need to use SAS for my project? This is. You can use whatever, right? Learning to use the tool efficiently will help you to build the house faster with more efficiency. That's the fact. Okay? Now, that's all about basic understanding. So I hope I can get your expectation right. So you can use VBA, you can use data, you can use whatever EView. But the point is, different tools or different programs will offer different level of capability, right? Capability or ability to handle with your data and your project. SAS is good for big data, very, very big. How big? Well, for the market microstructure data or thick data that we are using and we will be using. Right now, 1 month of trading data is roughly about 1 gigabyte. 1 month, 1 gigabyte. And normally when you do analysis for your business, you won't do 1 month. You do more than that, right? You do probably 10 years. Therefore, other programs may not be able to handle this large size data. So SAS is better for handle this. But other programs maybe, other programs like R, Python, maybe, they may be able to do so as well, but I just don't know it. Okay, so SAS, yeah, you can see it, right, SAS? I don't know, it's short for what, software analysis software, something like that, never mind. The main component in SAS is this. There are the things that we call data step. Data step, okay, and prop step. There are 2 main components. Data step is good for handling data set. For example, normally when we will work with our project, you will have the external data source. You read GDP, you read interest rate, you read productivity, you read trading data, right, as in our example, from external data source, whatever it is. It might be in Excel, it might be in text, it might be in CSV. Does anybody know CSV? What is it? CSV is comma delimited. By the way, CSV. I don't know exactly what is it, but they call it comma delimited. Okay, fine. So basically each variable will be separated with the comma. So you know that, okay, it's ABC, comma, XYZ. So ABC is one column, XYZ is another column. That's the way you read the data. Okay, text, CSV, Excel, or whatever can be the most popular type of data that you read in. So you read it in with the data set. What else? Then you manipulate. I use the word manipulate. Well, it's not the bad thing about this word.
Yep. Can you push your paper into the right?
Sorry.
No.
Here. Yeah, there's no frame on the table. Thanks. Please let me know if you can catch anything. Manipulate simply means that once you read the data in, of course, sometimes you might want to eliminate unused observations. Eliminate or drop out unused variables. Okay. Or you might want to compute new variable from existing data. This is what I mean by manipulate. It could be the fact that you have two different sets of files. One file contains some information, another file contains different set of information, and you want to, merge them together, right? That's another way of manipulation. Okay. What is proxet? Proxet means that it's ready-made function. Ready-made function provided by SAS, so that you can call this function and tell SAS to compute a certain thing for you. Of course, you have to follow the syntax. Okay. That how do you say? Perform certain function. Okay. And that certain function is ready-made functions provided by SAS. And of course, you need to know what's the syntax in order to perform such functions. That is it. Everything in SAS, at least within the scope of this class and for your project, these two steps, these two main frameworks are enough. Okay. Now, to cut it short, let me start to show you how these things will work. Okay, and this class for the first 3 hours, I will show you just a very basic command and get you to understand and familiar with the SAS data. Next week, we will assume that I want to perform the analysis of blah blah blah. I think I will do the order imbalance because it's the easiest one to do it within a short period of time. So suppose we want to do this, how can I do it from the very beginning that we have this, original data set? Okay. So for this first 3 hours, let's go back to let's go back to your slide. Okay, let's go back to your slide. Okay, I hope that you might be able to open up the SAS program like this. I can close it. Okay, now let me introduce the SAS window. SAS actually can be run in different formats. They can be run with batch function. They can be run on DOS mode, but it's obsolete now. But this is the most common one, and of course, this is the most familiar version that I am working on. So once you open up, let me open up the big one. just for now, listen to me first. Don't write anything, because once you write, you won't see what I will show you on the window and you will get lost. Okay. Once you know it, you don't need to memorize anything, because if you practice doing it again and again and again, you will remember. Don't worry, you don't need to jot down anything. Okay, here, editor, right? You see the word editor. This is where we will write the code. Okay. Log. Log is where SAS will report the result of your code. Result means if it's functioning well or if there is any error message, any warning. Left hand side, it says SAS environment. Actually, as you can see, include this, and this, right? But we will only use this one. Library. Library is nothing but the memory, not memory, the memory where SAS keep your data. Once you read the data in, SAS will keep it in the memory. And when I say memory, it's library. If I hit enter, okay, don't look on the screen. You see several folders again, right? They are created by default, but again, we will focus for now only on this folder, work. Work is temp folder. Temp means temporarily. Once you close SAS program, everything will be gone. It's temporarily, right? It is there once, as long as the program is still open, but if you close it, it will be gone. So it's temp. We call it work. Okay. If I click on or hit on the work, nothing in there because we haven't started yet. But we will see something later. Okay, this is all for the introduction. Now go back to your folder. Where is it? You won't have this, you won't have this, I will have it. And the reason that I won't give it for you now is I want you to do it yourself. And the reason is because if I give it everything for you, of course, based on the historical experience, it's quicker because some of you may not type fast, but you won't catch any error yourself. So I think it's better to have direct experience. First-hand experience, you did something wrong, you forget something. I think that you will be able to learn something if you commit some error. So I won't give you for now, but what you will see here is, I'm sorry, I am colorblind. What color is this? Green. Okay. So you see green text, right? Green text is nothing but the comment. Right? For those of you who are familiar with coding, comment means it's the part of the program that will not be read by program, not be read by computer. Okay, sorry. I think one thing is I should too small, right? Is this better? Is this better? Can you read? Okay, good. So what we will focus for now is just this. Keep the things pretty simple, basic concept. We have input, process, and output. That's it. Today we will do just 3 boxes. Input, what does it mean? You read external files. Text, CSV, Excel, whatever I just mentioned. Actually, you can read other forms of database, but probably you don't really need, and I've never done it before myself, to access or whatever. You read the output, you read the external files as an input. You read it into SAS program. So once SAS has the data in, then you can process it whatever you want. Once you get the analysis, perform some analysis, you output it. Again, you output it, you can output it into, let's say, Excel, right? Excel, text, CSV, blah, blah, blah. And you can output it into Excel, text, CSV. But one additional thing that I want you to write here, you can also write it here, is, well, later on in a more advanced level, you can also read the input in as SAS dataset. SAS dataset. So the data is kept in SAS file. Just like the one that I will give you as an example for next week. Okay. It is SAS dataset. Therefore, you don't need to worry about reading the format of Excel text in CSV. It will be easier for this case, right? And you can also export it into SAS dataset. Okay, that's it. Keep this in mind. We have 3 main steps that you will do. And of course, the most complex one for most people would be here, right? This is up to you. Whatever your project is, depends on you. And I cannot teach you everything. And of course, some of this I don't even know, so it's your learning process. All right. So I think that will be pretty quick for introduction. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention one thing. You can see here, right? The bottom here. So simply means that you can switch between different windows by clicking the icon at the bottom here. Log, sample, output. This patch is nothing. I can actually close it. Okay. We will see what each of this is used. Okay, first, read external into the program. I have prepared some data for you in the folders. Let me see. I hope this will work, but this is on my computer, which of course will be different from your computer. Just focus on this file. What you got for now is sample data, right? Sample data in different formats. Okay, this is what I have prepared for you up to this point. Let me open up some example data, maybe sample data text. What is this? That's some very small data set. Actually, I cut out from the real data and change it slightly to accommodate the teaching. So you can see the first column is date. Second column is time. Third column is, I call it order, right? Buy and sell, B and S. You can guess. The third one, fourth one, stock symbol, volume and price, right? We are finance, so I use more finance examples. We are human, we can read this information easily. But if the computer read it, you have to tell it somewhat, specific. Okay. Let me keep this open a little bit and try to compare the data that you will get. You have sample data, okay, similar. I double click on sample data, but suppose this is in Excel. So I got pretty much the same information, but it is in Excel table. Okay. just spend about half a minute, check your data if you can get the same kind of information like this. Just do it real quick on your own computer now. Make sure you get similar kind of data inside. And once you got it, please nod your head so that I know. So that I know. Oh, I said, okay, no, sorry. Probably I know you are sleeping. So nod your head means you are sleeping or you got it, right?
Yes.
Let me close this one and keep this one open only so it's easier to see. Now, the first thing that I will discuss is we read in the data. When you read the data in, there can be two different methods that you can use. As I mentioned, there are proc steps and data steps, right? Let me talk about proc step first. Proc step. It's okay, I forgot about that. Proc step, as you can see, once we type PROC, and then next one, I type import. So proc import by itself is a command. It's a command to import something into SAS, right? What color is it?
Blue.
Dark blue, right? And then the next one you see data file. Data file, what color is it?
Blue. Light blue.
Like light blue, right? So as you can see, in the editor will help you a bit to tell you if there is any typo error. If you type it correctly, you should see the color to show that, okay, proc import is the command. By itself is a command. And the following light blues are options of particular commands. Okay. Not write anything for now. Just listen to me less than 10 seconds and then you can go back and type. Okay? You can see 3 or 4 light blues, right? Data files. In the data files, I type C:/Julia microstructure SAS and the file name. Okay? So this is simply the location of the file. Next one is I include out equal to sample, dbms, and replace. Each of these are options of proc import. Of course, you will have the question: how can I know what are options I need? Google. But once you type it more and more, then you will familiar with the data, with the command and options by yourself. There can be some other options, but just give you some quick examples so this is enough to know. If you want to learn more, Google SAS proc import. You learn it. Okay. Data row, get names, sheet. I guess you probably be able to guess. Data row simply means which row to start reading data in. Which row to start reading data in. Probably the first row, first 2 or 3 rows probably can be something like introduction, a label, or some header, right? So you don't need to read it in because they are not your data. Start reading from the line. Okay. Get names. Do you want to read the first column as the name of the header? The name, the title? Which sheet, right? It's Excel. There can be several sheets. If you want to be specific, you can tell it which sheet name to read it. Run. Semicolon. This is the end of the command. Start with proc import. End here. Before we move on to the next command, just end here. Okay, now you can write. But hold on. I have C colon blah blah blah, but in your file you don't have C colon, right? You have your own folder. Now let's try to do it on your own if you can get it. Now you can simply copy everything from the screen here. Okay. Let me go to the new row. Go to the new row, and okay, now it's your turn. Now you can type it yourself. Try to copy everything that I have. Everything that I have. Oh, I forgot one thing, sorry. We begin with proc import, right? And we have a lot of things here, right? SAS will keep reading the command until it finds the end of each command. And the end of each command ends with semicolon, semicolon, semicolon. So the first row, even though I go to the new row here, doesn't matter. SAS won't care. SAS won't care. Until it says semicolon here, so it's the end of the proc import command. So the new row, data row, another option ends with semicolon, gets name, semicolon, sheet, semicolon. So now you can try it yourself, but what you need to figure out is what's the folder name in your computer. That is what I don't know. And of course, you will start to find some problem, and you start to walk, because normally everyone will get different kinds of error. Just type it and don't do anything yet. Just once you finish with run semicolon, then stop there. Don't do anything yet. Hold on. Don't touch. Okay. Can you please?
I'm pretty sure again.
Can you do that? You download. Oh, I see. I should use mine. Oh, you can print screen. Oh, by the way, later on I will give the file to you, and you can also save the file onto your thumb drive yourself. Don't worry. But now I want you to type it yourself so you can learn with your fingers. Are you all done? Does anybody finish? Typing? Raise your hand.
เปลี่ยนอะไรอ่ะมันเป็นไฟไฟเซลล์ก็เปลี่ยนแต่นามสกุลอะไรมันชื่อเหมือนกัน
ร้อนไหมเขาเป็นคนยืนแล้วมันอยู่ใต้แอร์ร้อน
นิดนึงด้านใบของน้องเหยียบมันยาวจังมันที่มีแค่
Are you all done? Has everybody finished? Raise your hand, please. Raise your hand once you're done. Okay. Now we will see if your code can be running properly. Okay. I'm not telling you anything just yet, but I will tell you. Suppose you finished your code. How can I test if this part is functioning correctly? Okay. The approach that I will use and teach you today is just like I call it myself, write and debug. So of course, normally you write the whole lines of code and you run it. How to say it? All at once, right? But in this case, we write just a little bit and test the program a bit, and then we move on to the next step. In order to test if it can be functioning well or not, I will do this. I highlight, make sure I cover from the very beginning of proc import. Start with P. and ends at run. Okay, I cover everything I highlighted, and then I go to click on this guy. You see the running guy, the little guy running. Oops, sorry. Right? And I click. Okay, so once you see some circle, and then I go to log. And I find error message. Physical file does not exist because this is not the location of this computer is on my computer. So I need to change it. So you can test it yourself now and see if it's okay. If you see, basically if you see all blues, that's a good thing. If you see some reds, that's not good. You see it's running, right? Run, and then I'm done. And I go to log.
Oh, the error.
This error message was from previously, right? And later on I run it again. I find the blue, right? It report here. This is the original code, and this is the results. Like basically the report. All blues. At least you don't read it yet, but if you see all blues, that's a good sign. Okay, now, does anybody see any error message? Raise your hand.
Syntax error.
Syntax error, right?
Simply one of the following.
Everyone will commit some error for sure. Okay, you're too good. Oh, well, so then it means that you can also read from the location like this. You specify the location on the server like backslash.
Oh, because it's related.
Yeah, and this is
That's correct?
Yeah, that's also correct. It doesn't need to be C colon B drive. But of course, this is on the server. This is not on your local. But it also works. Yeah.
อาจารย์ครับผมไม่ต้องจะเทค copy paste โดยตรงเลยเทคเขียนจากโมเดลตามหลักแต่ว่ามันจะเป็น syntax error
Okay.
แปลว่าอะไร
So it tells you a bit here, right? Data file, not data equal file, right?
Oh okay then wow
Good. Good. But all blue? Yes, good.
อ่า
Got out?
You can't find the sheet in the spreadsheet
So if you read it real quick, you should see some things like, okay, the import dataset has 56,000 observations, right? Something like this. So it's good news.
มันเป็น copy paste folder ใช่ไหม
Okay, now you need to read.
โฟลเดอร์มันเป็นปัญหาตอนนี้เนาะ
ไฟล์เปิดอยู่ใช่ไหมปิดครับเปิดอยู่แล้ว Excel มันจะล็อกไม่ยอมให้งานล็อกที่เดิมอ๋อ มันมีทิปแอนด์ทริคเล็กๆน้อยๆพวกนี้
cannot open the Excel file while we download ได้ไหม
XLSX That's the reason why I let you type yourself.
couldn't find the sheet in the spreadsheet ผมว่าหนึ่งผมว่าหนึ่งพอเถอะผมอยากให้ผมทำสินค้าก็คือให้ดูได้เลยมีคิวคิว
All done? All done? So this is your hello world. Does anybody know hello world? Hello world in your SAS world. Somebody said sad world. Oh, by the way, last week when does anybody go to data stream training? And well, there were like previous year students who graduated and now work in a bank. say they came to me and said to me that it was pity that they learned microstructure and learn about SAS, and unfortunately,
I hate running.
you heard or you hate? And they said that unfortunately they didn't pay attention when you learned this, because once you got into bank, they use SAS programming. And now they call it SAT programming. Alright? Let me explain some components that I forgot to explain. Yeah, I guess I forgot one thing. Out and BBMS, right? Okay, now you can listen and real quick. You read data in, data file tells the location of the file. Out is telling SAS, once you read the data into the memory of SAS program, how do you call this dataset? What is the SAS dataset name? Once you read it in. So in this case, I call it sample one. Of course, you can name it whatever you want. You can name it Ning. Up to you, right?
Sorry.
Once you call it out, see what's here. Do you see on the left side window? See the left side window? This is the result of out, right? DBMS actually it's telling SAS that the format of the external file is Excel. XLSX is the extension of Excel, right? What if it's Excel old version, XLS? You can change it to XLS. Again, can I change it to some other option? Access. Yes, of course. If you are reading Access database, you can change this one to Access. And there are several versions of Access. What can be some other options available for you? Go Google. Okay. Replace. Replace is very important. Replace is an option to tell SAS that if you are going to read it again, to run this command again, and suppose SAS already have sample one in the memory, replace it.
Ajahn, can you repeat what DBMS is?
Oh, what formats of the external file? What format of the external file? In this case, we are reading Excel, XLSX, right? Not text, not CSV, not XLS, not other XLSX. So we are telling it's in this format. Now, slowly. You see this on the left hand side? Okay, look on my screen, please. I put the mouse here to the sample one. Double click on it. Double click. So you see, it will open up the data in SAS memory. Okay. What do you see? You see the table similar to Excel, right? The first column is date, second column is time, order, symbol, volume price. All nice and clean, right? Well, don't forget, we haven't identified anything about variable yet, right? We haven't tell anything about the variable yet. Why would SAS know? Why would SAS know? First, because by default, SAS try to guess. Right? SAS try to guess what's the first row and what can be the variable name, and we identify clearly that the first row they are variable names. But what do you see? You see the first row in this case is SCC, right? SCC. That's the mouse. You see SCC, but the first row in our data is not SCC. Why? Because data row we begin at line 10. So what should be the number to give the correct results?
1.
2,
1.
1. What else? 2.
1.
Let's try one. Oh, by the way, if I keep the data, please listen here carefully because normally you might commit this error again. If I open the data set in SAS to take a look, and I keep it open and run it again, I will have an error. So before I can run it again, I have to close it. That's some trick. So I have to close it. Right, close it. No icon here, and then I run it again. Run it again.
Oh. Should be 2.
What do I have? The first row number 1, I got the can O symbol, right? What is it? So basically it reads the first row of the Excel file in as the first row, which is not right. So in order to make it correctly, it should be 2, not 1. Let me try this. If I run it again, I highlight and I run it again, and I take a look at the log file, what I will see, I see error message. Read. Error message says that data set is being used and cannot be replaced. And it is being used because I am opening it. It is left open here. Right? It is left open here. So I have to close it first. And run it again. Run it again. Run. Done. Now I see Thai as the first row correctly. Something like that. Right? Any question up to this point? Easy, huh? It's easy because I make the data very easy. No other problem yet? So this is about the row and columns. Okay, now please take a look. Some important characteristics of SAS variables. Okay, please take a look here. The first column. Okay, let me take back a bit. When you work with SAS dataset, always think of the data just like a square box. Think of the data like a square box. Square box, the same way as in Excel. Okay, the same way as in Excel. If you look at each column represents variable. Each row represents observations, right? Variable date, variable time, order symbol. So there are 6 variables in this case, 6 different variables, right? And each variable, each row represents what are in each observations. In this case, probably trading information, right? Observations in this case is the trading record. Some other program they call it record. Or row. In Excel it's row. So each variable, each observations, they have their own format. Now you can write down. This is very important. The most common variable types are first numeric. Numeric is number. In SAS, we don't make distinguish between integer and float, integer and decimal. We don't. It's just number. And it's easy for you to work with the number, right? Second, character or text. Character or text. As you can see, here are number, right? Number. Text. We have this column as just B and S. One text, one letter, B or S. So the length is 1. This column is the stop symbol. And as you can see, the length of variables can vary. But again, SAS will treat it as just text. Okay, this is the second type of variable. Third one that is very important to know is date and time. Third is date and fourth is time. Date and time has their own format. Now you see that it's, well, let's guess what date is it? What date is it? Let's see the first row. 12/01/2011. What date is it? What date is it? Means like, is it 12 January 2011?
No.
Or
1st December.
December
1st.
the 1st? Which one is correct? Actually, we don't know. By seeing this alone, we don't really know. You can't, right? Even though you try to scroll down and you see some pattern, right? You still can't really know. If you want to know, you go to the header. Go to the header of this one. Basically, go to the word date. Double click. It will open up some column attributes, characteristics, and it tells you the format is MMDDYY. MMDDYY is month, day, year. Right? 10 is like the length of it. So please note we have word format in format. Right? Similarly, for the time is easy. You see 10.0.01, so it's time, and the length of the variable is 8 digits, something like that. Okay. When you work with the data, sometimes you need to know about the format of your data, whatever it is. But normally, they can be classified into each of these 4 types only. I cannot think of any weird type yet. No complex number, something like that. No, not yet. Right? So 4 types are the most common ones. Okay. What if I delete this, and this? What if I delete it? What do you think will happen? Would there be some error? We don't know. Let's guess. Well, I need to. Oh, yeah. I highlighted. Run. Let's see. Oh. What? It is still okay, right? Normally, for the very nice format of the data that has, has no some outliers or formats are pretty nice and clean. SAS can manipulate and can understand data pretty smart, right? They are pretty smart in the way that they try to understand the data set. So sometimes you don't need to specify everything. You don't need to specify everything unless you have some specific demand. You have some specific demand to tell SAS that do this, please, don't go by default, but do exactly what I'm telling you. For example, you might need to start reading at row 10. Not first row, not second row. First row, second row, SAS can guess. The row 6, probably SAS can, right? Get names, variable names, you don't really need SAS by default guess that the first row is the variable name, something like that. So I am adding this just to let you know that there are a numbers of options that you can use, right? Second, what if the data is not Excel, but what if it is, what do I have here, let me see. Yeah, text. What if it's like this? How can I read it? Right? You might want to ask, how can I read it if it is text, not Excel? And you said, use Excel to read it in and keep it as Excel. Well, sometimes you do that too. But what if you can read it? Okay, first you might need to know that what's the format of this text. Okay, for this particular file that I have set it up, please take a look here. My cursor is here, right? My cursor here. But once I move next, it goes here, right? So basically, there is a tab to separate each column. Tab to separate each column. And we call this one as tab delimited. Tab delimited. Tab used as a separator. Similar concept. I use block import. Everything remains the same, except this, different file. But I need to tell additional information. In order to read correctly, in order to read this correctly, you have to tell that this file is text and they use the tab delimited. I'm sorry, I can't tell, but you have to know exactly when the file is tab delimited, you have to use 09. For some computer engineer, you know it as ASCII code. It's ASCII code. It's just a code to represent tab in the computer language. It's 0x with some, what is this? This is quotation, but this is what? You can use both. Actually, you can try. You can use quotations. You can use a single quotation. It will work both. Other remains the same. Sorry, I forgot one thing. DLM as well. What you need to change? DBMS equal to DLM. DLM is delimited. Okay. So up to this point, you might start to feel that there are so many options that I need to memorize. And of course, don't be panicked. You don't need to memorize. Once you start working with it many times, you will remember. And if you cannot remember, Google. Google says read tab delimited file. It will show you or it will tell you what's the command you need. You don't need me in your picture. I will send you the file. Don't take picture. I feel nervous. Okay, are you all done? Okay, the only thing, as I mentioned, the only thing is that we are reading different type of file, right? It's text file. Yeah, it's text comma delimited. Now let's read it in and see if it worked, right? And you can also play it on your own. For example, you can change the name of out. You can change it into whatever you want. Data row, you can change from 10 to 5. I'm not sure 100 will work or not. You can try. You try something else that you can work with, and then you will start to feel that this option perform a certain role. And suppose you can read it correctly, it should give the same result, pretty much, I guess. And if you encounter any problem, let me know. Sometimes it's just a technical problem, typo error. Any question up to this point? Not yet. Okay, let's move on.
What is get name?
Get names, right? So get name means that tells us to try to read variable name from the data set. So in our data set, we have the first row as the variable name. When I say variable name, it means that this column represents date, this column represents time, this column represents stock symbol, right? By the way, you might wonder, what if, let me try this. This is the first row, right? What if we don't have the first row? This is our data, and I just delete the first row, and I will save it as a different file name, sample data 2. So this is sample data 2. What if I don't need this one, right? Let's begin. And sample data 2. What will happen? Let's see. Highlight. Click. Error. oh, sorry. It's the same location, I forgot. Highlight. Run, and I got sample 1. I forgot to change this one. It should be sample 2. Run, sample 2, right? Double click. See? Understand, right? So all this, I don't have to teach you everything, but you can try to make some error yourself to see what will be the effect of the change. Okay, let's move on. Next is, what if we want to read it using data step? And the answer is yes, you can. There are two different choices. You can also use data step to run the code. The way you write data step is you begin with the word data. Okay, this is important. Please pay attention. You begin with the word data. Then the name, right? And again, you call it whatever you want. In this case, I call it sample 2, but you can all whatever, right? And then semicolon. So once you end this one, so after this, it means that create SAS data set, some here, with the word, with the name sample 2. Let me delete this. So let's just say. Right. Create with the name, create the name sample 2, then read external file. Again, this is sample, right? It's text and it's cap limited, the previous file, cap limited. If you don't have any other specific command to tell SAS, you can skip all this. But in this case, we also tell SAS that the first observation begins at row number 2, and the command is first ops equal to 2. Just the same way as data row previously. But the most important one is this. input in SAS data step. You have to tell the SAS specifically that each column, what are the name of variable names, what are the formats of the variable. For example, I say input. Input is the statement or the command to tell that the following word will be variable names. The first variable use date, call it date. Second variable, call it time. Third variable, call it order. Fourth variable, call it symbol. Volume, price. Okay? We have to tell it specifically. SAS will not guess for you in this case. Unlike proc import, SAS will guess for you. In this one, SAS won't. Okay? It looks like it can be a bit more tedious, more difficult, but I myself prefer this one than proc import, because proc import sometimes if your Excel is dirty, you cannot detect it, but this one I can detect it. Right? That's my preference. Now you can also see we have date, time, order. What is this? Dollar sign. Dollar sign is the way that we tell SAS that the previous variables is text. Previous variable is text. Right? But if you don't say anything, volume, right? You don't say anything here, what they are? Number. They are number by default. If you don't specify any format, specific format, by default, SAS will treat it as number. Well, how about date and time? Are they number? Are they number? Let's go back and look at what's inside the data. What's inside the data? Number, slash, 10, ... They are not number, right? They are not number by itself. So once SAS read this through, it looks like a text. But if you don't specify any command like this, SAS will think that they are number, which is wrong. If you keep it like this and you run it, you will encounter some error. Let's try. Oh, sorry, I changed the location again. Sample 2. See? This is correct because they are text. This is correct. They are text. They are text. Number. But they are not. SAS expect to see number, but they see text. So once they see text, they will treat it as missing. Missing is the dot. Missing is the dot, not blank. Dot. So missing or some error, right? In this case. How do I make or tell SAS that this should be in the correct format? We use the command like in format. In format. Why in format? Because we read the data in, and the format of date is this. Format of time is this. MMDDYY 10 dot. Please note the color. Colors are used to tell you something about, right, the command you're using. Right? Please notice the color appear on your screen. Okay, basically Y, MMYY, MMDDYY. DD, YY. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In this case, it's 10 because actually 1 can be 0, 1, right? 1, 12, 2, 2, 4, and slash, slash. So total the length of this format is 10. How can I know again what formats are available? Google. Right. What if it can be something else? What if this is 12th of January 2011? How can I change this? What if we know exactly that this is January 12th? How can we change the command? DDMMYY. Right? DDMMYY. Time. So we have 10 a.m. 0 minutes 0 second. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? But why there are 9.2? So I think in this case I want to expand it a little bit. Actually I can use just 8. But 9 is the length of total times available and 2 is 2 decimal points. Actually this it can be 0.001 as well. Okay. Let me close it. Let me close it and try to run it as is. Don't type anything yet, just see. What do you see now?
It's a number.
This is the date. This is the time. What are they?
Number.
They are basically the computer date, computer time, computer understand. It's about 18,900 days from the very beginning. SAS birthday. They count January, what is it? December the 1st, right? December the 1st. It's 2011 as this. How many days? Back to 0 day. Right? What is this? 36 seconds. Sorry, 36,000 seconds from 0 o'clock. That's the way you are reading. SAS or computer is reading, and human don't understand. If you want to make human understand, we use the command format. So command format, basically it will simply format the report or format the output so human can understand. Now I used some different formats so that you can see how it can be. Instead of MMDDYY, I used the command day10. Right? So once we read the data in, you can display or show it the way you want. Once computer understand it, you can display or change the format the way you want. Okay, now let's try. Now, instead of 12:01, now the format is different. Right? It becomes DEC. And you see, there are two digits of time. Back to like decimal, what is it, millisecond or something like that. What if I change this one to 9? What will happen? Let's try.
What happened?
What's different? Nothing. Is it? Nothing, right? Is there any error? No. How about 8? Date 8. Any different? Any different? You see any different? Yes. Year. Instead of 2011, it's just 11, right? So the format can be a number of different formats, right? You can try it yourself later. So what I'm trying to tell you is there can be a number of ways that you can play around. Up to this point, is there any other questions? Not yet, I guess. Still easy.
Okay.
I'll let you try to type it yourself. I forgot to give you some time. Yeah, you can try to type it. Hold on. Yes.
Yeah.
Because you make something wrong, you forgot to have semicolon here. One way you can notice something like typo error is you notice what color is it, right? It's supposed to be dark blue, but it's not dark blue. There must be something wrong.
What's different in format?
In format is the format of data you read it in. Basically, what are the format of external data, right?
So the default is plain.
No default. It just depends on the format. And for the format is the way you want to display it, show it.
The default of format is same as the default.
What do you mean default?
It doesn't type anything.
Oh yeah, just computer format, right? But normally the in format or the format of the data you read in normally should be something we can read, right? Human can read. It's not computer code.
Dates comes up twice for me.
Date comes up twice. You mean 2 rows?
There's this.
Yeah, something wrong. I guess that you made some typo. Typo error. Open up the data. Open this. Check spelling.
Yeah.
Right. So once you declare, you call it. This one like suppose instead of DATE date, you type DATA data. SAS will understand that you try to create a variable called data. Right. And of course, you will get the new variable called data, but nothing here as data. So it's just blank. There can be several typo errors that you will find along the way.
Ajahn, can we see your sample too?
Sure. Up to this point, what I changed is date 8. Display it as date 8. Of course, you can change it to something like YY, MM, DD. And instead of 10, you can say 9. Or there are numbers of formats, numbers of date format, number of time formats. Go look up online and you find a lot. Just only about date and time. But don't waste too much time on this one because we don't really pay, we don't need to pay attention on the date and time format, right? In our analysis, we are finance people, we don't care about that. Unless you go work in the company and you need to format your report to the boss. Probably that's important, but not now. Try to practice it on your own. Okay, I hope that you can try it. Now let's go back to what we got. Up to this point, what I have shown you up to this point is here. Sample data as a text, and they are tab limited. And as I mentioned, when you are using tab limited, the delimited symbol. Even though it's just a tab, but you cannot put tab in the blank space in the code, right? It has to be something like this. What if we are working with the data like this? Now open up the new data. Do you see this data file in your code? Excel, comma, separated value. Okay, CSV, comma, separated value. Do you see this in your computer? Don't double click. Don't double click, because if you double click, it will call Excel. Right click, edit. Edit. Right click and edit. CSV is nothing but the text file. CSV is just a text file, except the format of the data is like this, right? Each column is separated by comma. So once the computer see the comma, it will know that, okay, that's the end of the first column and we move on to the second column, something like that. Once they see comma, they will understand this is the end and we move on to the next column. So each column may not be in a nice format, it will be just like this, jigger like this, right? Jitter, not jigger, jitter. That's the word I just read. Okay, how can we read it? The main important one is the command is that you have to tell SAS this is CSV format. Let me remove something unused for now. In file, oh sorry, this is wrong. Delimited, what I need to change is comma, no X, just comma. Please note, and if you can write this down, please note that for DLM you can use semicolon or single quotation or double quotation. Right? Doesn't matter. Single quotation, double quotation. Okay. What is first observation? First op means read the first row. Begins reading the second row. Begin reading from second row. As the first observation begins reading here. So basically sometimes the first row, second row is just a label, header, explanation. They are not the data you are using. Begins at the line that you read.
And what is the dollar sign?
Dollar sign is the text. You are telling SAS that order is the text. Symbol is the text. If you don't have dollar sign, by default, SAS will treat it as number. Just like this. Right? But how about date and time? In the case of date and time, you can also add this one here, but it's a bit cumbersome, and I find it more convenient to put it up here as the in format statement. You declare it as the in format statement. It will be running properly. Okay. So even though date and time, I don't have the specific command here, but I declare it since the very beginning here, so SAS can read.